moving on to number 8, Ted 2. Okay, Ted 2, I have a confession to make. I actually like it more than the first one, which is something that's not widely said. Most people will consider the first one best. So yeah, Ted 2, I pretty much prefer this one over the first one. I think the jokes are better. Sometimes it's got more likeable characters. I prefer Sam L. Jackson, to get the joke, Amanda Sinfield's character over Mila Kunis. Oh, I prefer Sam over Laurie. I think sorry, there's a fly in my room. If there's a third movie, I think that her relationship with Mark Wahlberg's character, John, they could have a relationship by the time of the third movie. I like how the first one and the second one kind of ties in with the first one's. The ending of the second one ties in with the first one's beginning, with Ted and Tammy's baby. Now the whole plot is about Ted trying to prove himself to be a human citizen so he can have a child with his now wife, and then he's getting all his rights taken away from it because he's not a human. So he has to remarry and get his job back and file for a baby, file for adoption. He has to prove himself good, and there is actually a pretty strong message. There's also a point that if he wasn't involved in more of the adult stuff, he'd been more of a force for good and inspiration rather than a typical puppet, rather than a Teddy who likes drugs and prostitutes and all that crap, and all that. It summed up really good in the movie. It summed up really well, and he could have been a force for good. But because of his decisions, he wasn't, and that's mainly why he's being denied the human rights. If he'd been a force for good or inspiration, he probably would have gotten them. In fact, he might not even have had to worry about the bloody court cases. Thankfully, an act of heroism from John does prove the rights that. Also, again, another con. I wouldn't say Comic Con because it's New York. I think it's not. It's definitely not Florida. It's a con or a festival or something celebrating TV, media, comic, etc. Doctor Who fans can take notes. There's a Dalek in a couple of shots around this point. There's a couple of Daleks, and the Ninja Turtle fans will be glad to know that there's a funny scene featuring them. There's other notable characters from film and TV and comics as well, if you have a look around. And game. It's pretty much a media con, I suppose, which is good for people like me. Well, I've never even gone to one, not even in Britain. I know there's been a few in London, not here around May this year and last year. And yeah, I don't really go to cons, which is a shame. Yeah, and also the villain from the last film, Donnie, returns, and he's working with Hasbro, or is the president or someone representing Hasbro, in order to get Ted, as it's their products. Obviously, the Hasbro representative leaves in order not to be noticed. But whilst Donnie wasn't arrested in the last film, he actually does this time because he caused a lot of problems. There was a guy injured for So it'll be funny to see what happens then. I wonder what's going to happen to his son. And now he's away. I wonder what happened to him anyway. He had a son in the last film who wanted Ted. Anyway. So yeah. Oh, and there's three things actually. There's three things in this movie that really, really make it a fantastic movie in my opinion. Okay, it's not fantastic, but it's there's three strong things that really set it higher than the first movie. Three key things. The first is the fact that they go to a con, a media con or anything. That's my thing. Second is I can't remember my second reason. Damn it. Oh, I remember. Second scene. There was a fantastic joke about halfway through of a Jurassic Park spoof scene. I watched Jurassic World and Jurassic Park a few weeks beforehand. I saw the park before I watched World. I was prepared for that. But after seeing those movies, and then watching this one, there's a really good joke concerning them finding I think it's a drug, some sort of drug. And they spoof a scene from Jurassic Park, and you can hear the music. Oh, it felt really good, especially after 2 or 3 weeks from seeing Jurassic Park and Jurassic World, particularly as the fact I saw Jurassic World on the big screen as well at the cinema. And the main reason this film is better than Blasted. And the main reason this film is better than the first is because of Morgan Freeman. Oh my god, Morgan Freeman. He doesn't get much to do, but he's awesome in what he does. I haven't seen much of his earlier works, but I've seen the Dark Knight trilogy. He's amazing in that. And I've seen clips of him and other stuff. Oh my gosh, he's so great. I'd like to see him in it. Like Samuel L. Jackson, he's one of those pivotal characters, pivotal actors from the 90s that get even better as we come to the 2000s as well. Without being racist, I would say him and Samuel L. Jackson are probably the most famous black American actors. I don't want to be racist or anything. This is a compliment, actually. They're probably the most well-known too. And boy, can they be great. I'll get round to Jackson later as we go later on into the film, but Morgan Freeman, oh my god, he's awesome. He's just awesome in little he has to do. He's like in one scene, and then later on up near the end. I think it's about between the middle and the end. He appears, and then later on they have him at the end. Sorry about that, guys. My camera seemed to have stopped recording. Is it still? Yeah, it's still doing it. It seems to have stopped recording. Whilst I was talking about how brilliant Morgan Freeman was. How good Morgan Freeman was. I literally spent about 20 to 30 minutes talking about the next film on the list, and I was about to start at number 7, and I was about to start talking about number 6. So my camera actually stopped because there was a phone call. So that was going to be annoying. But I actually found out that I actually missed number 7 because it stopped recording. I think I ran out of battery. It's being hooked up to the charger now, so I should at least get some footage done while still on battery. Is it still on? It's still on. Okay, let's not waste any more time. Number 7, Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman, awesome. Third film could be better if it includes a couple more. If it's better than the second one, I think the second one's better than the first. Yeah, Ted 2. I've done talking about it. Just had to quickly recap. Okay, number 7. I hopefully won't be as long in this one as I was last time. Number 7, Cinderella, 2015. I say 2015 to distinguish it from the 1950 Disney animated one. I would say this one. Well, I used to rank this one higher, mainly because of the set design, and the costumes and how brilliant it looked. All good. I will say this: that Kenneth Branagh is probably the best or one of the best directors of the films I watched last year at the cinema. I think he's probably one of the best or the best director of the films on this list. Might even be the best, or second best after Sam Mendes from Spectre. And Joss Whedon from Avengers. Anyway, we'll get to those later. He just makes it look so good. He's mainly known for Shakespearean ones, but Thor proved he could do action, and I think I don't know what else he's done, but this is really, really stunning. He's done a really good job of capturing the fairy tale feel of the movie. There are points where it doesn't feel as good as the 1950s originals, such as maybe what the characters aren't as good, or the actors may not be as great. But there are points where it is much better than the original. And there's also some story points that are better than the original. There are one big problem I do have with the characters is that the Duke becomes a villain in the live action movies. He becomes a villain in the live action film, whilst in the original he was like a bumbling fool. Well, not a bumbling fool, but he was like, yes sir, I shall arrange the ball for tonight, but sire! It was like that. The tonight was the king. So yeah, I shall arrange the ball for tonight. Oh, but sire! That was the one from the original. And sorry, I'm going to say that quite a bit in this. At least I did. He was much better in the original, and that's definitely one of probably the main character I would say is better in the original than in the new one is the Duke. However, it is made up a little by having a good character, another very good character, the Captain of the Guards. He's very good. He gets along with our much better Prince, definitely much better. Stepsisters don't get as much to do. Mice and birds thankfully don't get much to do, as Hyper Fangirl from Nostalgia Critic, Old versus New, has pointed out they sometimes took over the movie. If you've seen that, you'll notice that there are points that they both make about how some bits are better or worse than the original. Such as the characters aren't as good, or sometimes they're better. The acting can be great, but the motivations aren't as... And whilst the motivations can be there, that doesn't lose a little bit of mystery, and also or at least for the stepmother, and also a bit of evilness. If you have a look at some of the scenes with the stepmother, you can actually see some evilness behind those eyes, especially in that stare when Cinderella's singing to herself after the ball. That's actually a bit creepy, to be honest. It's actually a really good moment. And again, the voice actress in that, who also does Maleficent in Sleeping Beauty 9 years later. Wow. Does well. And this one's a bit more subtle, mostly, but more realistic, but not as evil. She's more of a jealous stepmother to a cruel stepmother with a dash of evil in her eyes. Yeah, 2015 Cinderella is really... Oh, and the king doesn't get much to do either. Thankfully, it's made up. So whilst the prince gets a lot to do, the king, who had quite a bit of a presence in the original, didn't have much. And there's this point where he said he didn't marry for love, and that's what the prince wants to. But then on his deathbed, he actually did. So all of this nagging was for nothing. In the original, he was nagging about the prince should be getting a wife, so he can have grandchildren before he dies, because he's seen his son grow up. And so before he dies, he wants to see grandchildren, have one last time of some nice little family things, as opposed to having your son grow up. He wants grandchildren, and so he wants his son to marry in order to get grandchildren. And he's a bit stroppy about how the prince doesn't even want to like any of the girls, apart from Cinderella, which he gets a bit happy about, and cross about when she goes, but when his family gets happy. And it all works out well. In this version, the king is just talking about Princess probably just marrying, I suppose. But in the end, he does reveal he did marry the queen, the prince's mother, for love. And so that is sad when he dies. And there, we don't get much of him. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. However, it is made up by that is made up by the fact that it's that Derek Jacobi plays the king. Oh my goodness. There we go. I did it different this time. Derek Jacobi is amazing as the king. He's brilliant. Really, really good. So it's a bit dusty in here. Can't open it because there's noise outside. Yeah, it's still noisy. It's noisy outside. There's people inside. The door's probably going to open again in a minute. Oh, wait. No, we're not. So yeah, Derek Jacobi, really, really, really great. And my thing's still recording. Yes, it is. Sorry, I have to keep checking. Moving on, number 7. Again. Yeah. I used to spend about 20 minutes on this. I think I only made 5 or 15 at most. So let's move on. Numbers. Yeah, I'll round up by saying Cinderella 2015 is sometimes better and sometimes not as good as the 1950s original. But if I was to choose out of the two which one I would prefer, I would go with the one that Kenneth Branagh directed, which was this one, which was the live action one. If you watch Nostalgia Critics Old versus New, you actually see the ways how Cinderella was better than the originals, the character. But that being said, I think most of the stuff that the live action one does actually kind of is better than the 1950s original. Okay, number 6. Now, I think Cinderella used to be a bit higher on the list. It used to be around top 2, top 3 for a good period, and it used to be at least top 5 for a good while. However, I'm sorry, it's very dusty. Up my nose. However, thinking about this list and actually putting it down, well, Hotel Transylvania was supposed to be head of Ant-Man, and Night at the Museum was supposed to be head of Ant-Man as well. Ant-Man was supposed to be behind Night at the Museum and Night at the Museum 3 and Hotel Transylvania 2, but wasn't. And there's another film later on that would have been behind the next one, and maybe also behind Cinderella. This one, Cinderella, was higher, but it went down a bit more as I started thinking about it. So yeah, number 6 was a bit lower. I think it could have been a bit lower as well if it wasn't for Cinderella, but it probably would have been a bit, and maybe also a certain animated movie that comes a bit later on. Number 6 is Jurassic World. Okay, I actually watched this just after watching Jurassic Park again. I rewatched that. It was the other way around, one or the other. It was either I watched Jurassic Park first. Again, I rewatched it. Yeah, just checking. Rewatched Jurassic Park before I watched Jurassic World, or I watched Jurassic World and then I rewatched Jurassic Park. It was one or the other. And yeah, this was really, even one or the other. I had seen the film at least once before, and I did enjoy it on the rewatch, and rewatches, and also same for Jurassic World. Wow, it looks really good at the cinema. It's that opening theme. It's really good. It's really good. When the boy opens the doors, you get that dun 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 dun. As we look at the park, similar to that scene in the first movie, that with the first reveal of the park, of what the park looked like, and this is what the scene in Ted 2 I mentioned with the drugs was, homaging. It wasn't a spoof, it was a homage. Well, the lines were probably spoofed, but the scene itself was a homage. Yeah, it was the scene with, after John Hammond said, "Welcome to Jurassic Park," was the scene Ted 2 paid homage to, and it's what this reveal of the park scene in Jurassic World is being similar to. It isn't exactly the same, because the movement in the original, the music had built up a little bit to that one. In this one, it's just building up and building up and building up, and then bam! And then there we go. And then when you think it's building up, it does a little bit more build up. And then we finally get it. It's like when the composer, Michael Giangio, actually, when I think he was actually, it's the fact that, no, I would say the filmmakers were building up the scene so much that Michael Giangio, the composer, had to keep building up the music so much in order to do that big reveal, in order to play the big da 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 as soon as that big reveal. But because there was so much build up to that he had to keep building up. So I would say it's partly So I wasn't so worried about that. I think it could add less build up, and maybe start at the scene where they did enter the hotel and build up just before the big opening. But I think it started building up. It was either at the airport or at the ferry port or something. I rewatched this not too long ago on Blu-ray. Yeah, it looks really good on Blu-ray. Really good at the cinema. It was really good. It's definitely better than the second and third films. But I would agree that the first one is probably slightly better. Maybe for story. Yeah, I'd probably say story. I think Jurassic Park would have worked on its own merits as a standalone movie. To be honest, I don't think it would have really needed a sequel. It's nice to have the sequels. Number 5 is being made. I wouldn't like it to be called Jurassic World 2, because Jurassic World is Jurassic Park 4. So maybe something like Return to Jurassic World, for example. Or Return to Jurassic Park, if we're being original. Well, not original, but going back to the original. It could be Return to Jurassic Park. Huh? Yeah, or Return to Jurassic World being a sequel to this one. This isn't a reboot. Lots of people think it's a reboot. It's not. It's a continuation of the original. It does ignore numbers 2 and 3, just like Terminator Genisys ignores Terminators 3 and 4, and Superman Returns ignores Superman's 3 and 4. But it's a continuation, but it's also the start of a new franchise, or at least a new era of the franchise, as number 3 was about 13 years before Jurassic World. Oh yeah, that reminds me of one of the possible titles of a Jurassic 4 film. It's a Jurassic film. In fact, this might even have been the Jurassic 4 they were planning for 2005. Jurassic Warfare. I think that was one of the titles, either for the 2005 planned Jurassic 4, the one that didn't get made and eventually became this one, or one of the upcoming, or a planned sequel. At least there's going to be at least 2 or 3 sequels to this, as well as also 2 or 3 sequels to Mad Max Fury Road, which will not be on this list because I didn't see it at the cinema. But there's at least 2 or 3 sequels planned for that one as well. But Jurassic World is really good. It has a few story problems. Some of the effects aren't great, but they're still looking good. They could have done a bit more practical, or, as Nostalgia Critic says in his review, don't CG them over the practical as much. They're too much. Excuse me. He says in his opinion he thinks they CG'd over them, and it probably makes sense. I think maybe bits where they're touching the raptor heads in the cage, they were probably practical but got CG'd over. That was very practical though. More practical than some of the other scenes. The acting's good. I don't know why you need a human villain though. I've been said there's human villains and kids in this film. I don't think there's a human villain in the third one. But there was every other film there's been a human villain or alongside the dinosaurs. So I think the third one proved you don't need a human villain. That was probably that's probably a merit given to the third film. You just need dinosaurs. I think the closest you get for that one is probably Billy stealing the dinosaur eggs, but that's as worst as it gets. That's as worse as any human gets in that movie. And also, you get kids in the movies as well. Every single one. This time they do every single one. Again, for number 3's credit, it's part of the story. And number 1 you can forgive. 2 and 4 4 kind of wraps into the story. 2's the one you can forgive the least. 4 you can forgive a little because it does tie into the story. 3 ties in. 3 is mainly about. 3's main plot is about the kid trying to find the kid and getting him safely. Number 1 just has them there, maybe to attract the audience. Because maybe adults aren't the only ones who like dinosaurs, So, number 4 is probably similar. It's kind of in between the 1 and 3 plot lines, but because it's trying to attract the kids, but it's also about trying to find them later on. But it kind of falls closer to the 2 range when they become less necessary. They don't really need to be there, just like in number 2. So that's why 1 and 3 you're more likely to forgive, particularly number 3. You don't get most compliments for the third film, do you? You don't really hear them that much, unless it's time. The timing. But actually, even then it felt slow. When the others, they didn't whiz, but they were still. The other 3 were still enjoyable, even though they were long. Okay, number 2 wasn't that great, but it still moved on at a reasonable pace. Number 3, despite being the shortest one, does drag a little at points. Even if number 2 does as well, but number 3 is just as bad, even though it's at a shorter pace. Maybe. 4 does take up its time to build up a lot, at least for half an hour, which I think is what the first film did as well, actually. The first one did half an hour of build up, but it did that in an interesting, enjoyable way, whilst this one is just, have a quick look, we'll get round to the story in a few moments. I like how Colin Trevorrow voiced Mr. DNA from the first film. If you look in the background, one of the shots, you'll see Mr. DNA, and he's actually voiced by Colin Trevorrow, if you can actually hear him. He's credited as him in the credits, but you look out for that. I think Jurassic World was a really good job. Really good. So, Jurassic World, really good. It's not great, but it does a really good job. I would say it's not as good as the first one, but definitely stronger than the second and third. But then again, who's surprised? I actually don't really know which one's weaker. I actually like them pretty well, but they've got a similar amount of faults and goodness, good points and bad points to each other. And the first and fourth are definitely better than them. Maybe number 3 is slightly better because it has. Actually, I did compliment it a little, so maybe number 3 is actually slightly better than number 2. Ollie, I'm agreeing with you. Number 3 is better than number 2. That's Ollie Pajek, Mr. TARDIS 11. I'm agreeing with him, saying number 2 is the weakest, then 3, then 4, then 1. as we go stronger up the list. I'm agreeing with you completely this time. Everyone has their different opinions, but then you find the lists where most or people will have the same opinion or very similar to opinions. Say if you've got two people in a room, you have different opinions. Say you liked a certain film of a franchise more than another. Like I like Terminator 3 more than Terminator 2 and Genisys. Oh my gosh, I'm afraid I just said that. Most people like to, but I'm going to rewatch that. I hope. I had recorded it again, and I'm going to rewatch it. I was hoping to get this Blu-ray box set of the first 4, but I didn't get to. But at the moment, I do like number 3 more than number 2. I will rewatch the films when I can, though. Meanwhile, Ollie despises Terminator 3, and Terminator 2 is second favourite after the first one. So yeah. Probably agree at number 3 for Genisys at this current point before I see 1 and 4. However, Jurassic Park, I think it's the same. I think we must. I think we're either agreeing on the same thing, or I'm putting 2 and 3 as a tie. It's either, yeah, because I think 3 has a few extra merit things, but it does have a few extra problems that are not as good as 2 may have done a bit better, or was a bit worse. Yeah, so anyway, Jurassic World, really good, really like it. It's definitely the sequel to the Jurassic Park sequel everyone was waiting for. Well, unless the next one's even better. Let's hope it doesn't get botched up. Well, not botched up, not as bad. Let's hope it doesn't go as bad as The Lost World, Jurassic Park, the second one. Okay, moving on to the top 5. Top 5 now, everybody, and we're about to go into. And we're about to have... In fact, the next 2 are the best 2 British movies. This next one, more so than the number 1, is more British. Number 4 is British-American, whilst... And then top 3 are American only. Maybe have a slight British association. 2 of them, maybe. But number 5 is pure British. And we haven't really had that on here, have we? Night at Museum might be slightly British, because it was filmed there. Cinderella's got a bit of, kind of a partly British cast and crew, but it's kind of made by Americans, so again, American, US, UK. Minions, well it's not, actually no, Minions is definitely US, it's just set in the UK. Night at Museum's kind of a mix of the two, because it was partly filmed. Mostly filmed, there actually, sorry. But yeah, number 4 is the UK US. We'll get around to that. So yeah, number 5. Oh, and then there's some of them probably would have used British studios, like some of our later ones down the list. Film studios. Okay, number 5, the second best British film and the most British of them all of 2015 is Shaun the Sheep movie. You can't very get more British than Aardman, can you? Aardman Animated Studios have created yet another masterpiece, just like Marvel. Shaun the Sheep. I haven't actually seen After Christmas, but I have seen all the other Aardman films. Chicken One is great. Wallace and Gromit in the Curse of the Were-Rabbit. Brilliant. Flushed Away is, well, the first CG animated film from Aardman. CG film from Aardman as opposed to stop motion. It's not great, but it's good. It's probably Aardman's weakest film. I haven't seen After Christmas, but that's still pretty good. Apparently pretty good. I think that's a CG one as well. You would have thought they would have learned after Flushed Away. That stop motion is the better way, for them, at least. I don't know, After Christmas has got positive reviews. I wouldn't be surprised if that was one of the better ones. Anyway, and then Pirates and Adventure Scientists is a very good film as well. I wouldn't say it's one of their best though. I would say the first two and this one were Aardman's best. So Chicken Run, Wallace and Gromit in the Curse of the Rare Rabbit, and Shaun the Sheep. Then I'd probably go with Pirates, then Thrust Away. I'm not really excited for Nick Park's Caveman one. He originally had the idea for The Croods, but then that went to other people who made it for DreamWorks, and so he's got something else up, Caveman related. I'm not really looking forward to that one, to be honest. Well, I am looking forward to it, but not as much as maybe a Shaun the Sheep sequel, or Wallace and Gromit sequel, or even Pirates. Again, Pirates beforehand. I won't, but I will stay optimistic. I mean, look how good Shaun the Sheep was. I mean, that could have succeeded or failed, and boy did it succeed. This is probably the least dialogue film of this list. You'll get more noises and grunts and arr, arr from characters. Not arr, arr, but you will get noises from characters. Oh boy, itchy nose. But it won't actually be talking. It's just noises. Excuse me. Which is the magic of Shaun the Sheep. You don't need talking for it to be funny. The only sound is noise. Is sound. It's sound of people, or not necessarily talking, just shouting or grunting or like, ah rah 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 rah, ooh ah yeah, just normal sounds that people might just make at the moment. Don't really make as much when they're talking. It's not blah 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 blah. So if it like not this, not talking, more like ba ba, ooh ah, more of a reaction sound effects. Or if it is like trying to say something, it doesn't come out as words. Animals, it works a bit better. Works a bit more in the favour of the animals as you're trying to get sound effects out of them. And Justin Fletcher, who you may know from Something Special, and also as well known as Mr. Tumble from CBeebies, voices Shaun the Sheep, and he's brilliant. He's great at voicing Shaun the Sheep. He's like, bah! I don't think anyone could have done it better than Justin. I think he does it in the show, but I'm not certain. I thought the show was starting in 06, but I think it was 07 actually. No, it was 07, 6 or 7. It was after The Curse of the Were-Rabbit and before A Matter of Life and Death, the fourth Wallace and Gromit short. Which, to be honest, is probably my second favourite Wallace and Gromit short after The Matter of Life and Death is after Wrong Trousers, of course. To be honest, I think everyone agrees Wrong Trousers is the best. Yeah, so Shaun the Sheep movie, I don't really have much to say about it. Very British. It's set in a British city, though it's fictional, such as like Metropolis or Gotham, unlike the live-action ones, which have it in a real-life place, which is World's End, for example. Now, there are cases like World's End and Hot Fuzz that do set it in fictional places. Shaun of the Dead was in a real place. Maybe a fictional area at North London. Maybe a fictional area of that area of North London, but Hot Fuzz and World's End had fictional towns. For theirs. Can you even count Hot Fuzz as one as a town? It might even have been a village. Yeah, I think it was a village actually, yeah. So you get parts of the city, real life. Then you get a village, fictional, and a town, fictional. Yeah, really good. Well, the setting at least. So yeah, the Shaun the Sheep one's fictional, but the other British ones are real. This is because you can actually create your own city for the film. And wow, it looks really good, both small and large scale. Yeah, oh. And Nick Park makes a cameo, both in there's a bird watcher who's watching some birds. and his hide gets pulled away, and the birds come over and start pecking him. That character is Nick Park. Yeah, Shaun the Sheep. Masterpiece. It's really good. Yeah, I was talking about Nick Park. Nick Park actually voices that character, based on him, by the way, and also Shaun the Sheep's biggest fan also makes a few appearances. But how can you not love this movie? How can you not love this movie? It's really, really good. Really well. It's not one of the best, but it's probably one of the best British. It's definitely the best British. Pure British. Next one is the next British film, although it's partly with America. And then we have some ones later on that also maybe this one does do film at British studios, but are still pretty American films. I don't think there's any other foreign movies. No, I think it's just USA or UK, or USA and UK. Yeah, to be honest, I think British cinema is really good. Those three comedies I mentioned earlier are British comedies, and they're really good. And the same trilogy as well, really good. You get some really good British stuff. Yeah, Shaun the Sheep, really good, really great movie. Probably one of Altman's best. And yeah, really good. Okay, number 4.
Time of our lives, wonder of surprise, the open blue skies.